Cybersecurity for the people, small business, NIST 800-53, management training, incident response, NIST policies and procedures, executive and command level reporting and communication flow, training, testing, incident response exercise types, data breaches and spillage. NIST 800-53, security and privacy control families. Once again, we're going to dig into the incident response family. This is the incident response enhancement family. We're going to dig down further into that security family. It starts off with policies and procedures, incident response training, incident response testing, incident handling, incident monitoring, incident reporting, incident response assistant, incident response plan, and incident response spillage. Incident response -1, policies and procedure. This is the detailed implementation of that policy. The control addresses policies and procedures for the controls in the IR family implemented within systems and organizations. This management strategy is an important factor in establishing such policies and procedures. The policies and procedures help provide security and privacy assurance. Therefore, it's important that the security and privacy programs collaborate on their development. The security and privacy program policies and procedures at the organizational level are preferable in general and may obviate the need for system-specific policies and procedure. The policy can include as part of the general security and privacy policy, or it can be represented by multiple policies reflecting the complex nature of the organization. Information impact of breach categories. Privacy breach, sensitive personal identified information, PII, of taxpayers, employees, and beneficiaries was accessed or else exfiltrated. Proprietary breach, unclassified proprietary information such as protected critical infrastructure information was accessed or exfiltrated. Integrity loss, sensitive or proprietary information was changed or deleted. Exfiltrating means the hackers actually took it off premises and took it out of the computer. Information spillage refers to the instance where information is placed on the systems that are not authorized to process such information. Information spills occurs when information that is thought to be a certain classification or impact level is transmitted to a system and subsequently is determined to be a higher classification or impact level. At that point, corrective action is required. The nature of the response is based on the classification or impact level of the spilled information, the security capabilities of the system, the specific nature of the contaminated storage medium, and the access authorization of individuals with authorized access to the contaminated system. Some examples of this will be if you send information to Dropbox and your company didn't authorize that, or if you actually sent an email to the wrong person who was actually supposed to get that data. Those are examples of information spillage. NIST 800-53, incident response, Homeland Security. Organizations must create, provision, and operate a formal incident response capability. Federal law requires federal agencies to report incidents to the United States Computer Emergency Readiness Team, U.S. CERT, office within the Department of Homeland Security, DHS. The Federal Information Security Management Act, FISMA, requires federal agencies to establish incident response capabilities. Each federal civilian agency must designate a primary and secondary point of contact with the U.S. CERT and report all incidents consistent with the agency incident response policy. Homeland Security, incident response capabilities. Create an incident response policy and plan. Develop procedures for performing incident handling and reporting. Setting guidelines for communication with outside parties regarding incidents. Select a team structure and staffing model. Establish relationships and line of communication between the incident response team and other agencies, both internal and external. Determine what services the incident response team should provide. Staffing and training the incident response team also. The incident response team in the center communicates with internal and external organization and entities. Here are some of the organizations they communicate with. First one is software and support vendors. They could have CVEs or vulnerabilities and get hacked and cause you to get hacked. Customer constituents and media. Once again, the customer could get hacked, causing you to get hacked. Other incident response teams. If you have some information or VMs up in Amazon and Amazon got hacked, of course that will be your information, so you will have to communicate with the Amazon team. Internet service providers. If Comcast or one of those got hacked, that caused your DSL, even for your company or your home use, to get hacked. Incident reporters. I just listened to the guy that was a threat hunter. So threat hunters are incident reporters. So if a threat hunter found some of your information on the dark web, they could let you know. Law enforcement and agencies. The FBI could come to you saying also that they found your information on the dark web, making your incident response team active. Once again, the incident response team is the hub, and it coordinates all communications with the entities internal and external. Standard company organization. The exact reporting requirements vary among organizations, but parties that are typically notified include the CIO, Head of Information Security, Local Information Security Officer, External Incident Response Team if applicable, System Owner, Human Resources for cases involving employees such as harassment through email, Public Affairs, incident that may generate publicity, Legal Departments for incidents with potential legal ramifications, U.S. Certs for federal agencies and system operated on behalf of federal government agencies, law enforcement, and other employees at the organization. Incident response cyber exercises take different forms. Over a period of years, organization may perform 3 types of exercises described below. The first one is tabletop, a paper-driven exercise which injects scripts by exercise planning and delivered via paper or card discussion. Organizations new to exercises and to accessing organizational objectives use tabletop. The second one is hybrid, paper injection with some live scenarios facilitated by the security team for realism, probes, scans, email, and spoofing. Organization familiar with inter-organizational exercise and a strong knowledge of their own objectives would use a hybrid. The last one is a full exercise. Exercise plan incorporates real scenarios, injects into the exercise. Paper injects only used to stimulate if necessary. Organization familiar with exercises, cybersecurity, and their own organizational objectives uses this full live exercise. Incident response tabletop detail exercise receive their name because in most cases the planner and players of the exercise sit down at one table and execute the exercise. A tabletop exercise should have a small training audience and well-defined objectives. This type of environment opens up communication between different players, aids in establishing the business process associated with planning, executing, and training during an exercise. The injection are hypothetical, entirely pre-coordinated and written down. Many organizations use tabletop exercise to establish relationships and share information with other organizations, partners, or countries, test the readiness of the response capabilities, and raise awareness with the security community. This type of exercise could be considered crawling. The phase is the most simple but can provide many lessons learned depending on the maturity of the organization. The exercise focuses on understanding and mechanics of communication and interaction required among the participants in the exercise. This is often represented the first steps of opening communication among multiple organizations, determining how information will flow in a real world event. NIST 800-53, incident response legal issues. Each state has their own security breach. So I looked up California's. California law requires a business or state agency to notify any California residents whose unencrypted personal information, as defined, was acquired or reasonably believed to be acquired by an unauthorized person. California Code 1798.29.a and California Code S 1798.82.8, persons or business. Any person or business that is required to issue a security breach notification to more than 500 California residents as a result of a single breach of a security system shall electronically submit a sample copy of the security breach to the notification, excluding any personal identifiable data, to the Attorney General of the state of California. So any state that you're operating in, you need to do research to figure out what is that specific state's incident response and security breach notification. California was any breach greater than 500 California residents, you had to report that breach. Incident response, penalties and fines, and culpability. So I printed out the HIPAA version of culpability. The new maximum annual penalty is $1.7 million. The maximum penalty per violation is $58,490. So let's look at penalty tier 1. No knowledge. The minimum penalty is $117. Penalty 2 is reasonable cause, meaning you had some neglect, but you did a little work. The minimum penalty is $1,170. Penalty 3 is willful neglect with corrective action taken. You were willfully neglect. That penalty per violation is $11,698. Penalty 4 is willful neglect with no corrective action. That penalty per violation is $58,490. So if you had 100,000 records and you had the willful neglect with no action taken at 58,490. So the reason you do NIST is to show HIPAA and any organization that you're doing due diligence and due care, and you're not neglect, meaning hopefully you would get the lowest penalty, which would be $117 a record and not the $58,000 a record. So that's why we do the risk management framework in NIST, to show that we are doing the things we should do as an organization. Incident response exercise, a management communication flow. We're just going to walk through the steps of a communication of an incident. An employee laptop is stolen. The employee reports to their supervisor. The supervisor reports to the security team. The security team fills out basic information. What time was the laptop stolen? Where was it stolen? Was there any sensitive information on that laptop? SSN, driver's license. On this particular laptop, we're stating 1,000 HIPAA records were on that laptop. So the compliance officer would report to health and hospital government agencies stating how many records were stolen. Legal would check to see what the state attorney general's requirement is for that state. The CIO would report to the CO, which could possibly make the news for a reputational risk. The security team files a police report, usually for insurance reimbursement. Security team usually puts in a re-image order for the laptop. So that's exercise going down the chain of command for your organization. Incident response, post-mortem, and hot wash. Items that the companies can do better. Security training on where employees should transport their laptops. I usually get a few employees stating that they left their laptop in their back seat while they went to dinner and wanted to know why their window was busted out when they came back. Disk encryption for laptops. State law and federal laws sometimes state that if you have disk encryption, you don't have to report those records lost. If your disk encryption is working properly, the crooks actually have to erase your disk to actually get into that laptop. That's why a lot of agencies state that. Other basic things you can do to improve is report tracking on your laptops to find it, remote wiping your laptop. So even if it's stolen, if they hook it to the internet, all the data will be wiped off. CEOs may need to communicate with the communication teams to make a media statement. Group users are set up for text phones on your cell phones. So when you text your group, if you're a group leader, you can just disseminate that to your team. And the big issue is, how does this work when it's at night or on the holidays? How do we get together? How do we group text? Because when things happen at night, of course, it's a whole different ballgame. Summary: the executive team should have an understanding of the communication flow and how that should work in an incident. The executive team now has been trained and tested for their NIST qualifications. Legal issues have been raised. All the reporting agency has been notified. NIST incident response should be tested yearly. Once again, cybersecurity for the people. Please subscribe.